Hello, welcome back to Tara's Lifestyle and Vlog, and thank you so much for stopping by. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about what happens and what you need to do if your COS in the UK is cancelled. When we talk about COS, we're talking about Certificate of Sponsorship in the UK. Okay, but before I go on, my name is Tari, and on this channel we'll talk about UK visas and immigration. We'll talk about life in the UK, how to safely and successfully travel to the UK, and how to navigate through life as an immigrant living in the UK. If this sounds like something you're interested in, then please subscribe, turn on your bell icon so you don't miss out on any of my videos going forward. And to my returning subscribers, thank you all for coming back to my channel. I appreciate every single one of you. Okay, so we know that in order for you to come to the UK to work, you need to get something known as the Certificate of Sponsorship. So that is given to you by your employer, which says that they're actually sponsoring your visa to work in the UK. Okay, but we know also that recently there's been so many cancellation and suspension of licenses for many employers. So many employers are getting their licenses cancelled. Some of them are being revoked and some of them are being suspended. Okay, and in this video we're going to be talking about what happens to you as an employee if your employer's license to sponsor your certificate of your certificate is suspended, or if it's cancelled. I'm reading from the gov.uk website so that you know that I actually have the right information for you. Okay, so that if you're in this position, if your certificate of sponsorship is cancelled, then you know what to do. If your employer loses their license to sponsor you, that's what I'm trying to say, then you know exactly what to do. Okay, and you know what position you are in. Okay, so it says, employers, if your visa sponsor loses their license, okay, which means they are no longer able to sponsor your visa, you will have to leave your old job and leave the UK. Okay, unless you make a new visa application to stay in the UK. Okay, so you will lose your license, your certificate of sponsorship, unless you actually apply to a new job, to a new employer that will be able to sponsor you. It says you could be affected if they lose their license, if their license is suspended, if they are taken over, or if they don't renew their license. Okay, but what we are concerned about today is if they lose their license, i.e. their license is revoked, or if their license is sponsored. And it says what happens to you actually depends on where you are, whether you are in the UK or you're outside the UK. Okay, that will determine what happens to you. So if you're in the UK, when your employer loses their license, your certificate of sponsorship will be cancelled. So if you're working in the UK, you already have a COS and all of that, and your employer loses their license, then your sponsorship, your certificate of sponsorship will be cancelled. That's if you're already in the UK. Okay, your visa is limited to 60 days. So you have 60 days from the day that you're notified that your employer no longer has a license to apply for a new job, or however long you have left on the visa if it's less than 60 days. So if your visa with that employer is less than 60 days, that's how much time you have. But if your visa is longer than that, then you only have 60 days to apply for a new visa or leave the country. Okay, so that's if you are in the country already. But if you are outside the country, okay, it said check the status of your sponsor's license on the register of sponsors, and there's a link which I'll put on in the comment section for you, in my description box for you, so you can have a look. It said check the status of your sponsor. It will be on the register before you travel. Okay, so if your your employer's license has been revoked, if they've lost their license, they will not be listed on that page, on that website that I'm going to show you. Okay, so if your sponsor loses their license, there are different criteria here now. So if you applied for a visa already and your employer loses their license, your visa will be refused, because obviously they're not able to sponsor you anymore, so your visa will be refused. Okay, so if you already have a visa and you haven't traveled to the UK, your visa will be cancelled. Okay, so your visa will be cancelled. You won't be allowed to enter if you travel to the UK. Okay, so if you haven't applied, if you apply after your sponsor license has been revoked, your visa will be refused. If you already have a visa and you're yet to travel, then you won't be allowed to come to the UK because your visa would be cancelled. And if you're already in the UK, yeah, your visa would also be cancelled. You'll have to leave and get another job or go back to your country. Okay, so if it's suspended, so if your employer's license is suspended, so this is the second category. Okay, so your circumstance again, whether in the UK or you're outside the UK, will determine what happens to you. So if your sponsor license is actually suspended, this is a little bit better than if it's revoked altogether. If you are in the UK, if you travel to the UK but you haven't already started working, it says you can start work. Okay, and if you're already working and your sponsor license is suspended, you can keep working. Okay, so that's a bit of good news. And if you've applied to extend your visa, your application won't be processed until the suspension ends. Okay, because obviously they've suspended the employer for one reason or the other. They'll be doing their investigation and all of that. And if they meet the requirements that the Home Office has given, then obviously their license will be given back to them. Otherwise, it will be cancelled. And if it's cancelled, then your visa will be cancelled. But if it's just suspension, you can continue working if you've already started working. If you haven't started working, you can actually start work. Okay, but if you're outside the UK, again, so this is for suspended license. Okay, so if you've applied for a visa, your application will be put on hold until the end of the suspension, again until they complete their investigation and all of that. So if they complete their investigation and everything is good, then your visa will be approved. However, if the sponsor's license eventually gets revoked, then obviously your visa would not be approved. Okay, so if you have a visa but haven't traveled to the UK, okay, so you have a visa in your country, you've gotten your certificate of sponsorship and all of that, you've applied for your visa, it's been approved, but you haven't traveled to the UK yet, you'll be contacted by UK Visas and Immigration. Okay, so when they contact you, they will tell you obviously that the sponsor license has been put on hold and all of that. Okay, and then they will inform you on what you need to do as well. Okay, so these are just the two things. So if your sponsor license is cancelled, then you have 60 days, like I said before, to apply for a new job or go back to your home country when your visa ends. And if it's suspended, you can carry on working until the investigation is done and until something and more information is given to you. So I thought I'll bring this one to you quickly because I had a few people asking me the same questions. I know that there's been a lot of visas, a lot of sponsorship licenses that have been revoked, some have been suspended and all of that. And I thought I would come and give you this information quickly. I hope it's been helpful to someone. If that's helped you, give it a thumbs up, share with your friends and family, and of course subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave your questions and your comments below so I can answer them for you as much as I can. Okay, but thank you for watching and I'll see you in my next video.